Hey everyone, I hope your loved ones are safe and well. I've just been, I guess, relatively silent through a lot of stuff that's been going on the last few weeks and doing a lot of like processing and thinking myself. And I don't know why I'm sitting like this. I don't know how this has actually come to be, but just wanted to put out a little video and like update. No, I know, lots of people doing their best to like stay connected, but still a lot of like scrambling going on in the world. Not everyone getting a chance to reach out to the people that they want to reach out to and actually, really care for. And not that you're necessarily going to watch this video, but at least I feel that I've addressed some of the people and released some way to sort of keep in touch. I'm recording this like this because I guess I'd put it on like Instagram/IGTV. I don't even know what the best distribution model is anymore. Everything's so fragmented. I've been spending a lot of my time personally on LinkedIn lately, and apparently they've got LinkedIn has some sort of like LinkedIn stories coming, similar to obviously Instagram stories and what Snapchat originally did. So I'm very fascinated to see how that actually goes, and I think a lot of people in the business world will be using that, and I'm guessing what I'm interested to see what LinkedIn morphs into as that actually takes place. So I have I love my information. I love I love my Reddit. I love all these different things. So I've been following this this virus story like really closely. I have that obsessive ability to just continue to read, even though it's not good for my health. And I know a lot of us are sort of feeling that way. I picked a weird time to move to Toronto. It's crazy to such a big reason why I was actually moving here was for the networking, for the events after, at nights, to actually operate on the DMZ. And I feel like I'm a plant wearing a shirt, but it just sort of like happened naturally. And within, I'm trying to think of how, so we started the program January 15th, and then the timeline there, it got like pretty bad relatively quickly. I'm trying to think of like when I heard the first like inklings of it, and I would be just like on the subway and I'd be nervous. It was like oh man, why just moved to like the massive city in the middle of a pandemic. But saying that, I wanted to come to Toronto for a long time. It's always been such a hub of activity, and just so much good like energy here. And currently I'm in Cabbage Town. I have not seen any cabbage. It's a stupid joke, but I've had the opportunity to explore, and I really do like it. I miss some of the access to sort of like nature that I did in London. And if anyone knew where I previously lived, it was right along like a bunch of the trails in Thames River there, and I really did enjoy living there. And I think like a time like this, that really does call to me. So I'm done, and I'm living with Vatzel. Vatzel, if anyone doesn't know him, is sort of like the head of development on Speak AI, and it's just an incredible human being. We have got much closer in this time. Of course, you're working together, and then you're also living together. But then I don't think what you expect is to also be, quarantined together. So that's been really, really interesting for our relationship, and I've just learned so much from the guy. Really has been a motivator for me, and very, very inspiring. And I'm coming on here today with really, I don't have any purpose. I like got a couple false starts on this video, but I just feel like I haven't really communicated that well. And again, I'm just going to be blabbering on for a couple minutes here, but I think that seems important. And I think there's also an aspect of for so long I really, I'll post, if anyone follows me, I'll post like pictures and like, events and stuff that are coming up, or things that I think are cool, like with what we're doing. But I don't necessarily like post like videos like this. It's not even true. I do like YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff. I just don't really share it onto like the main, like Instagram and like personal profiles sometimes. And I think a lot of us right now, with the paradigm, of the world really shifting, what I've seen actually is, well, first of all, I think people are having, I think people are very bored at home, but I think a lot of people are sort of like, fuck it. Like, I have these quirks in me, or I have, I've always wanted to share this. I've seen a couple people just like, making music or rapping or doing all these things that I think in most of, before sort of a little bit of a shaking of the world, probably wouldn't be doing that stuff. But in a way, with all the horrible, parts of what's going on right now, it's also been somewhat of a freeing moment for us as people to realize, like, so many of us actually thought we had this stuff, like, the world like figured out, and then we just get this thrown at us, and it really starts to, it shakes us at our core, and starts to change our perception of even who we think are leaders, or the smartest people, or who are the leaders in our world, politicians, business owners. All of us have been shaken so dramatically like this, that we sort of realize, like, no one really knows what's going on here. If I'm going to live, and who knows how long, then I might as well do what I want to do. And for a lot of us, it seems like that it's brought us back down to like some creative endeavors, and just a self-reflection period that I think is actually, as dark as this is quite beautiful in its own way as well too. And I know that's something for myself that has been huge, and I'm always in an existential crisis. So in some ways that's no different for me. And I think, as I've thought a lot about this, the instability that we feel in the world right now, in a way, I really have seemed like I've felt that for a long time. And there's no comparison of, like, being like an entrepreneur / business owner to like what we're dealing with now. But it just seems like maybe I'm just like a risky person, but I just have this like familiarity with like instability, and not really understanding or knowing what's coming, and just trying to live in the moment and do the best at that, hoping that pans out in the future to be successful. And I think luckily I feel relatively well adjusted for what's going on. That being said, you do not expect to, I guess, of a little bit of a context, like for 6'5", I started my web development company in 2015, and it was building websites, and no one came, and I started doing marketing, and it sort of progressed over there, and ended up, one of the first like real things that I found that was successful was like a program called Google Grants, which was $10,000 USD a month in free advertising for nonprofits. And so I would set up nonprofits with Google Ads. I hook up all the analytics, and then I'd start to send hundreds of people to the site each day, and then start to like figure out like what were people doing, how could we get people to support, sign up for events, volunteer, donate, all these things. And it was the first time I had really developed like an actual value proposition of like, here's what I'm doing, here's something that is of value, for you to actually get this traffic, to get this data. Usually you'd have to pay $10,000 USD a month, $329 USD a day, and you no longer have to do that. You can access this program, and then if generally the nonprofits accessing that program struggle to actually make the most of it. So if you pay us a small fee, we'll help set it up, manage for you, and just guide it with the sort of like the mantra of like, you run your organization, we'll find you customers, we'll find you supporters, everything there. And that was a really like tight organization of like how we could reach out to someone, connect with a nonprofit, and then just start a relationship. And really, that was a really viable business opportunity and path, one that made me feel good about what I was doing, and sort of just was able to actually grow that to a pretty large amount of income each month, at least for one person. I had started to expand and test a couple different things. In some ways, that was an amazing service, and something I'm so proud of doing, and not to sell like scammy stuff online. Instead, like market what nonprofits were doing. But I was also feeling a little bit unfulfilled in terms of, I would build these beautiful dashboards and all these analytics reports, and then I would share this with the nonprofits. And sometimes a lot of the nonprofits, because they're just smaller organizations and doing the best they could just to serve the people that they care about, weren't able to like actually sort of take use of that data and like transform web pages or messaging or make videos or things like that. And so I had felt like doing all this work to, for example, get clicks to the website, but the website I didn't have control over, and so it would sort of suffer or would load slow. And just because of lack of resources and time and skill set, some of those tasks wouldn't be taken care of, and then some of the advertising wouldn't be as successful as it actually could be. And during that time, I just felt like a lot of sort of I was like operating out of Innovation Works, which is a co-working space downtown in London, sort of sitting there with myself and one friend, Zamir, love you buddy. But I was like feeling sort of like isolated as well too. I was getting a lot of work done, but like after I set up the accounts, I was like making enough money that I needed. And I would talk to like the nonprofits like once a month, because all the rest of the stuff was just like data analysis and setting up ads and all this stuff. And so it was sort of in a way a little bit lonely. And so that's when I started to figure out, not even figure out, I just saw a couple opportunities. I was doing Fanshawe corporate training, which was awesome. In Fanshawe corporate training, I was able to do like workshops for like tons of business owners, and that meant a lot to me. I couldn't believe they like actually asked me. Fanshawe came and asked me to lead those workshops, and it was like 6.5 hours of a day. And I'm like, well, people have to listen to me talk for 6.5 hours. Like, how the hell am I going to do that? And like, also, what am I even talking about? It was digital marketing, and obviously I had known a lot. And I just sort of like, I guess, threw everything I ever knew into the first day I ever did. And that first day I felt like I was playing like a championship hockey game in the morning, because I was just so terrified. Like almost like threw up in the morning. I couldn't fall asleep the night before, and so I also like try to drink tea. And I don't drink tea. I don't drink caffeine. Well, I started a little bit now, and I love it. But at that time, it just like it got my heart fluttering, and I remember just for the first hour, just so nervous and just talking like a mile a minute, and just like blacking out, and then like sort of like coming to like an hour later, being like, was that okay? And that workshop was really great. But at the end of it, it was sort of like too much information for everyone. I remember them sort of like sometimes I think walking away more scared than they actually started. And so I had built instead of just one day, I separated that into 3 separate days. One as like set up your foundation for websites. The other one as like marketing and analytics, and how do you get people to your site, and how do we set up this like infrastructure to measure things and make sure your efforts are actually successful. And then the last part is just like more content creation, social media management, and all those things. And so those were beautiful 3 days. And during that time, I learned a lot about what business owners were struggling with, what I would just ask what their challenges were, and we would stand up and go around the room and we talk about it, and that would allow me to like sort of adapt on the spot, and then like address the issues that they actually had. And then I'm trying to think what else. Like I started to see some breakdowns in people who were calling some of the nonprofits that we were working for. So just as one example, like Boulder Mountain was it's a great nonprofit, and they would get someone to click on their Google ad that we had set up, and then they would go to the website and they would be looking for like a wedding venue, for example, and what would happen is that they would have like a volunteer on the phone, or just just a rotating person, and wouldn't really keep necessarily good track of when did this call come in. Did this person actually end up renting the wedding venue, and where, and if you could get that data, you can actually connect it to the search that someone made, so we could identify, the original search, where they were, and all this amazing stuff. So creepy stuff, but really powerful stuff. And so I started to see this need for like an audio and video processing system that could, first of all, like record and then transcribe and then extract out all these insights, keywords, topics, phrases, all these different things, and hopefully quickly identify what had turned into someone actually signing up and purchasing a venue for a wedding, and instead of losing all that information, which in so many cases is actually some of the most valuable information that you have when someone decides to pick up a phone and actually call an organization. And it was another moment where I got asked to do a talk on how AI impacts the real estate industry, and it was a really fascinating moment in my life. Again, another one of those ones where you just get sort of an opportunity that was probably a little bit early, that I was just like, wow. First of all, I'm not an expert in AI. Theoretically, I was relatively strong in some sense, because I had done MIT at Western, and we talk a lot about technology and then merging with technology, but not from a practical standpoint, not from a technical standpoint. And then I had also seen like the list of people who were in. It was like 500 up to 600 people coming at the convention center, and they had like 2 months to get ready. And I was like, oh my god, like what the hell am I gonna do? And I was very excited to do the talk, but what they'd also wanted me to do was an artificial intelligence demo, something that could show the power of artificial intelligence and how that would actually impact a space. And so I built, with some help, an Alexa app that I could query into the Alexa app, and it would just automatically search into it would automatically search into the MLS listings, the database there, pull out all that information, and then basically give me the top 3 results based on a couple of queries that I was actually looking for. So sort of voice search for real estate. And I did that presentation on stage, and that was crazy because at first like it wasn't catching what I was saying, and I literally felt my heart I just wanted to cry, and eventually the demo like worked after a couple of seconds, and you know, Alexa came on and said, "Here's the top 3 houses that you're actually suit you based on everything that you just searched for." And I just thought that was, you know, a crazy moment. It was a tough crowd in a way because it was like, here's this crazy technology. I apologize for that scratch. That is going to. Apologize for that. Is going to, you know, change how real estate operates, but you know, and it might have an impact on literally your careers and your income and your sustainability in this space. So you know, that had been a very, like, you know, transformative talk for me, and then it also saw the impact of like the crowd and the feedback on the crowd back. So you know, all these things sort of built up, and to the point where it was like sort of hard for me to ignore. I think in many cases, you know, what this pandemic has showed us is, you know, you have to be happy with what you have. I always, you know, I read an amazing quote from Eric Bryden, actually, who started Arcane and was the head of Arcane in London, and, you know, talked about just having a carrot in front of your face at all times. And, you know, for me, I think that's, you know, something I wrestle with. Is like, it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing, I always need more. I always need to learn more. I always need to understand more. And that becomes, you know, a really good thing that can motivate you and drive you, but it can also become like this just thing that is this never ending like satisfaction. Like you're this unsatisfaction, sorry, like you just always want more, you always want to learn more. And to this fact that I think about it is sometimes, like, you know, this learning, this movement of like self-improvement is obviously so valuable, but sometimes I actually think we sometimes are just like overdoing it. And for myself, I just had got a little unfulfilled in the current work that I was doing, even though I was making the money I wanted, and I felt sort of lonely, and I wanted to be part of a team and a collective and doing something actually valuable and important. And, you know, for always I've had this block in my head of like, I can't go work at a company. Like, it never made any sense to me. I'm still challenging that notion. And, you know, in times of difficulty, there's always moments where you're like, that would be easier. Like, you know, I love building, I love innovation, I love tech, but I don't necessarily like business in a way of like, you know, selling. I don't like paperwork. I don't like QuickBooks management. I don't like accounting. I like building. I like relationships. I like, you know, doing things that are of value. But you know, when you're a business owner, so many of these other things get jumbled up in it. And so you actually can't get the focus maybe necessarily on a role or something that you like doing that you might actually get to do in a company. And so I'm challenging a lot of notions that I actually have about that as well too. And I think that's something I'm, you know, quite happy with actually. But at the same time, I just got this thing in my heart. And I was really lucky. I have, you know, I've worked really hard to just like build a great network of people over, especially, you know, in London. And you know, people were really supportive. Like, I originally had actually, when I was getting prepared for that talk, I had been video filming myself and then like trying to make that talk better because I was so nervous. I'd never done that talk before. And so I'd film it or watch it back, but I was like, there must be a quicker way to film this / watch it back / analyze it to understand like where were the good parts, where were the bad parts. And that's something that I started to like really sort of drill down on. And I started to build some front end stuff, but I didn't have enough technical expertise to build the back end. And really, you know, that original insight had been like, I can help people prepare speeches better. I thought that I would even have like, you upload a video and then a person will review it for you and then give you feedback. And sadly, my thought process is like, I don't really want to deal with all these people. I'd love to build this like scalable technology business that would then allow us to you know, not have to use people to give that feedback. There must be ways to do this through technology. And that's when I really started to explore a lot of started to really like explore technology platforms, speech to text technology, speech recognition, natural language processing, named entity recognition. You know, a lot of things in machine learning and artificial intelligence that you know, were you know, still you know, far beyond my skill set. Yet I started to see the actual use case of them, the value of them, and started to actually play around with some APIs, build some things, and just small little demos and things like that, to the point that you know, I had something that I was able to show people. It wasn't that well done or like working, but it looked sort of pretty on the front end, and I could start to do some like little demos and stuff for people. And you know, I started to validate it a little bit. Realistically, I think validation is probably like, I'm going back, and this is already, see, like, it's turned into 20 minutes. Who knew? I knew, probably. But you know, validation is probably one of the most important things to me. Like, I put a lot of money and time and energy into what I'm doing right now, and I'm really happy with that. I've learned so many lessons along the way, but I also could have de-risked what I'm doing so much more with just better validation, with a little bit more of a lean framework. Like, you know, I don't need to have every single feature into an application. And truthfully, you know, products that have too many features, they're not necessarily more valuable. Are they solving problems? It becomes more complex to use. It becomes a longer sales process. There's so many things that are beautiful about simplicity that make something really valuable. And that's what I would like to you know, get better at. And now, you know, unfortunately, you learn that, you learn through it, and there's books, but you learn through experience. You learn when you're like, oh, I built this product that, you know, I see the beauty in, and I know a lot of people see the beauty in, but it's so filled and rich and has all these different things, and for some, and for a lot of times it takes, you know, it can take me 45 minutes to an hour to even explain. Like, I'm already going for 20 minutes here. Like, it can take me a long time to actually get the value out, or not even the value, but the full scope of what the actual technology is, and why it's valuable, why someone would want to use it, and all of that. So I think simplicity is you know, a really beautiful thing. I just want to give a shout out to my friend Zamir, who I worked with in the Innovation Works basement for years. His product VidHug in this time is a beautiful, simple product. If you have a virtual gift or birthday or celebration, all you have to do is just go, you record, you create a link, you send that link to all the people that you want to include in the video. It pulls out all the video clips, and then it automatically montages it together to build this like beautiful montaged video that you can share. So if it's someone's birthday, it's a celebration. And what's so amazing is you know, in this crisis, in this pandemic, as everyone moves virtually, that product has gained so much traction, and it's such an amazing thing to see that the product that he built is simple in terms of understanding and comprehension, and also use, but the value that it's producing for people, the joy that it's actually producing. So, you know, just shout out to Zamir for building such an amazing product. Vidhug.com, really fascinating stuff, and a little story that gives me a lot of, you know, it's very heartwarming to see, because, you know, there's a lot of businesses that are struggling right now. And to see a good Canadian guy that I've known for a while just to have some success and really help people during a difficult time. And I'd like to touch on that. I guess, like, it's been pretty crazy to see what's going on in terms of the economy right now. I saw like a stat yesterday that I believe like Alberta's going to have like 25% unemployment. United States getting, you know, demonized by this. You know, Canada's having a ton of economic problems, and there's been a lot of support given out to people in general. That's something that we cannot ignore as Canadians. I think we, you know, whether progressive, conservative, I think, you know, we've had a pretty good response from the government, and I would say a lot of people are doing this really. We're not caring about politics right now. We're caring about people in the country, and I think that's really a beautiful thing, and something I'm so glad to see that we have that here in Canada. There's been a lot of support being given to businesses. You know, there's wage subsidies. There's no interest loans that are even basically partly grants. There's subsidies if you're, you know, self-employed and you lost income. if you were laid off. Like, there's a lot of support actually, but you know, truthfully, it's been pretty devastating across the spectrum for small businesses and large companies. Like a company, Ritual, here in Toronto, which does amazing stuff, I believe, with food delivery. Like, they laid off more than 50% of their workers. You know, a bunch of the clients that I'm working with, because they're smaller nonprofits and businesses, they are, you know, they're closed down temporarily, permanently. There's, you know, a couple of businesses that I work with that are location or clinic based that are closed down, and you know, they're not big major corporations. So are they going to be able to deal with what's happening right now? You know, what this has revealed is we were on very unsteady grounds, very unstable grounds. People so close to you know, not being able to pay their mortgage, their you know, huge amounts of debt, and you know, a small little, not a small, I can't minimize this, but like a delay of weeks, even a week, has, you know, been detrimental for so many businesses, organizations, and just people in general. And so I think there is a big mindset shift that we're actually having as people right now. I know I'm having it. Like, you know, I, as much as I am a person who cares about like, just like doing good, I really do believe that deep in my ethos, that I actually like care about that. There's still always been this you know, desire for you know, just money. Like, I just wanted to make money. I wanted to be a millionaire by 30 years old. And as we go through this situation here as a collective, as a species, I think that you know, at least in my mind, and is that I've seen it, I think that it's like people just want to survive right now. They don't care about some of these other things. They don't care about these lavish goals or anything like that. It's like, let's survive as a collective. Let's readdress you know, how are we actually operating as a world right now? How are we treating people when we go through a crisis like this? This pandemic has illuminated a lot of things that I think are both, you know, really scary, whether, you know, to capitalism, like the systems that we have, government systems, and there's some very optimistic things as well too, about people collaborating, people working together, that have given me a lot of hope, and I think a lot of us hope as well too, whether it's rallying around our healthcare workers, companies pivoting to develop technology and you know, and masks and shields and all this, you know, stuff that is just needed. And I would say that, like, that's been a big thing for myself too. It's just like, this has changed how I'm looking at what I was even doing. Like, where was all this energy and effort and going, and why was I doing it? I ask myself that every day. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the larger goal here? You know, that really drives me, makes me sometimes just hurt on the inside, especially when you know, invest in your own self, you invest in other people, invest in technology and software, and then, you know, something like this that happens can really derail you. And I'm seeing people do this at large scales, like large companies that have invested so much and have hundreds of people on their team. And even though this has caused a lot of problems for myself, I'm lucky that I'm still pretty lean here, that I don't have this crazy massive team with this massive burn that I'm going through and spending every month. And you know, that's something that you need to be considerate of. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you need more? And how is this going to change your life? And is it for the better? And I just think, you know, there's a lot of people who right now were striving for so much for so long, and they're reflecting and looking back and saying, I don't know why was I taking for granted what I have, especially when we see how fragile this all is. And I know I feel that way, and I'm sure there's many out there who actually do. I'm trying to think what else. Is just like, you know, a couple, I guess, other insights of like what's going on. You know, in my life, I'm sitting in Toronto. I'm here at this place right now until the end of April, which is not that long, not that far away. And then moving to another spot. We have not figured that spot out. We're shopping. We're looking for some stuff. There's interesting, prices are a bit lower right now because of all this. And I think a lot of people just like, we don't know what this is going to do, and we just want to get people into places. So just looking for a nice spot, and hopefully. One thing I realized is I worked in a basement for so long that it's like natural lighting is so beautiful. You can't see this right now, but there's light here, and I really enjoy that. for a while too, I was like, we had almost like 8 people working on Speak AI, which is crazy. Speak AI was just like, I got, I saw this opportunity. I thought there's some really interesting things to do, and I guess, one of the more like ulterior motives of what I've had is like, I was, most people know that I had gone through a really difficult time when I was 21 years old. After hockey, after school, I had just sort of like, I just fell apart. I was partying. Like, we won that Sutherland Cup championship for the London Nationals at 21, and I just got like a blank check to party. And I was like doing stuff I'd never done before, harder drugs, and all of a sudden I just felt this like complete like emptiness in my life, and that was a really difficult time. That was also the first time that I had any experience with psilocybin, so magic mushrooms. I made it 30 minutes before I brought this up. Pretty proud of myself, but I really underestimated like the power and the potency of that, and the life-changing experience and revelations that you could actually have. And during that time, there was a lot of stigma around the stuff. I was sort of just like didn't know how to talk about it, and at 21, after my birthday, which I had been all wrangled up with turning 21, I just thought it was weird. My dad had a heart attack. He lived, but it was just very it brought up all these moments. We'd had just a tough relationship growing up, and all of a sudden this, wow, this guy might not even be in my life anymore, sort of merged, and I had just a breakdown. And that breakdown was, as much as, we talk about the healing effects of psychedelics, I couldn't comprehend what was going on. I did large doses, like back to back after that. So the idea of setting, not understanding that you need to be in a good mindset, that you should be in a safe place, that you should probably have someone, especially in a large dose, and through that time of life, you should have a trip sitter who's taking care of you and walking you through those things. None of those things were even, I wasn't aware of any of that. And so I ended up, just on the, like what I still question of, a drug-induced psychosis, especially with the combination of marijuana and psilocybin, but it really, all of a sudden I just emerged, and I was like, fuck money, my dad in the factory, this capitalism, fucked him and fucked me, all this stuff. I wanted to walk everywhere. I didn't want my vehicle anymore, all this different stuff, man. And I just ended up and even this, I have this sort of, I was talking about this with a friend the other day, just like this, I have a trauma. I have a PTSD of sharing things on social media. So like this, I'm just breaking through, because I just don't like, this pandemic is just like, who cares? Who cares what's going on? Who cares what people think of you right now anymore? Like, just use this as an opportunity to just break these barriers of ego or nervousness or self-consciousness you actually have. But because I shared so much during that time, really, I was doing like Instagram stories before they were Instagram stories. I was just posting way too much and just trippy shit and just like pictures. And it just, to anyone and to myself looking back, I still have some of the pictures that are now archived on Instagram. I'm just like, man, it just must have been such a crazy experience. Just watch that, see this person just having literally like basically a complete breakdown and publicizing the whole thing. And that included a video where I had just recorded myself and just broke down crying, asking like, why couldn't I cry at school because I'm a guy? Yeah, it's like it sounds so fucking stupid even when I just say that, but just like I just felt like so many things that I felt were so rigid in my life had just all fallen apart, much like I think how people are feeling right now. And I just didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have anyone to talk to, and so I would share online, and that really just brought all this attention to that I was having a difficult time, and I ended up in the hospital. I ended up as just as an inpatient in the hospital, and I was like, it's so crazy to see how like quickly you can get into this like negative thought loop in this pattern. I had gone from I had always struggled with like depression in a way, and I knew that in university for the first time. It really, really hit me. I'd had it, I, of course, like in context, and people don't know, but like it was a difficult childhood. I just did, and it really started to hit me in university when I stayed at home and no one else was there. But I just like I knew that I was sad. I used to write rap, and I like look back. I have all the raps I've like ever written in my life, and some of them were sad, man. And it's like, wow, you're a dark little boy there, Tyler. And but I just so I ended up as an inpatient in the hospital. I turned this negative thought loop that was just so horrible. It was so just detrimental, and just literally it went from just negative to like I don't like myself anymore to like you don't deserve to even like live on this planet anymore. And you know it was just constant ongoing 24 hours a day. Every moment was just Tyler don't deserve to be here, you know. And that took a lot of work to actually heal, a lot of like self work, a lot of a lot of things that I went through, like that, you know, some support came from, you know, great stuff of like, you know, hospitals and, you know, being an inpatient in a hospital. I learned a lot from there. They also kept you safe as they could, even though the experience, I don't think it's in some ways healing anyone. It's just stopping them from actually harming themselves. And, you know, just what you know, to connect this back to what I was really talking about, I was just like, during that time I was writing a lot. I was recording a lot of audio and video notes. And it was all just like, I talked about this the other day in a post, but like journaling for well-being, like it was all just disparate. And my thought process is like, why can't I combine this into one system where I can throw all this stuff into, and it will just like give me insights back into myself and help me learn about myself, help me gain a better self-understanding, a better awareness of what's going on in my life. If I know I recorded an audio note on Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. and I'm crying, I can trace that back after I look back at from the month before, the month after, and say, wow, in April I was, you know, really struggling these 5 days, and here's some of the connections, why and how, you know, how can I get better? What insights did I actually get out of that? And for that, I actually thought about this a lot. It requires active input. So I actually need to record a note, and right now I'm trying to do a note a day. I missed 2 days already. So compliance is such a big thing that needs to be talked about. But that was this idea of like, I could make this journal that I could document everything and then pull these insights out and learn about myself, build a self-understanding, a self-awareness. And I just thought that was a really powerful thing. Now the struggle is I had never raised money before. I had, you know, a small revenue base from clients that I was working with. I just didn't think this idea was going to fly, to be honest. And so I really started, you know, if you've followed the journey of PKI, you've seen me talk about the different use cases it has. And that's been a good thing, but it's also been a really bad thing. And it's made, you know, what I'm doing actually quite unclear. It makes, you know, people ask me like, what am I doing? And I'm like, so that's a big question. And, you know, people with different backgrounds, different histories, different paths in business or whatever, all sort of view what I'm doing differently. And that's largely my fault in not being able to commit or not being decisive on the vision that I've actually had. And truthfully, I have interest with so many things that it's hard to pin down and just say I want to do this. But that idea of how important and valuable it is to actually extract it, you know, meaningful insights out of information, because we have so much of it these days, it still stands to me as something really valuable. And now we've got you know, a technology platform that is strong, that is actually valuable. And, you know, of course, competitors, different things in the space, but we're doing some really fascinating things. And I think, you know, there's a way to shape this and put it where it needs to be to actually become a successful entity. However, you know, saying that, there's a lot of challenges ahead, you know, team-wise, financial-wise. You know, some of this stuff has really thrown a wrench in it. We were in a grow program at Tech Alliance in London. We were supposed to do a presentation on March 31st in front of like 150, 200 people, all, you know, from the business community, investors in London, and that just fell apart. It's supposed to exhibit at Collision Conference in Toronto, which is, you know, one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and the amount of contacts that could have been made just in one day that could be really beneficial, you know, that just wiped off. And so there's a lot of companies dealing with that, and the DMZ has been doing a great job keeping people connected virtually, sort of talking about, and it was really been scary to hear about the impacts of some of the companies there, some of them in the real estate or, you know, travel business. They're like, yeah, we got nothing to do. Nothing's going to move here. This is done. And so that's, you know, this is a long looping way, but just like an update of like so many different things. Yeah, because we had like 8 people, this, you know, even before this this virus really came down, like it really, I had already sort of, you know, we had to like downsize a bit. I just couldn't. Development took longer than we thought. I was getting, you know, a couple of contracts that I was not very happy with, or relationships with some of our clients that I couldn't do anymore. And then I was also just trying to like figure out, you know, how can I be more lean and make at least the current revenue that I'm having, that we have, last as long as we can, just so that we know we can get this to where we want to be, and not get distracted with smaller projects that we necessarily don't want to do, and focus on the actual path that we're taking here. And so, yeah, that's, you know, that's a lot. You know, we've got Vatzel and I working on this full time, really adapting. We've got a bunch of people, like people who are always on the team, got a good relationship with, continuing to help us on like a contract basis or support when they need us. And it's been, you know, a really interesting time, where in the past, I think my ego, I think my goal to look like you could never fail, that you were only successful, would really like come and flare up right now. But I just learned a lot, and I'm really happy about how much I've learned, how much I don't feel like, you know, even though, you know, like that just because you're not the skyrocket right away that you always hope that you will be at some point, that you're not successful. And then when you have a circumstance like this, I think it just even humbles you even more, where it's just like, there's my plans, and bye-bye. Let's readjust, let's refocus, let's figure out all these different things. And so I think it's a really powerful experience for everyone right now. And I think it's an opportunity for so many of us to get out, you know, get out of, you know, this paradigm that we were in, this perception that we have of ourselves, the perceptions that we have of other people, perception we have of the world, and really start to do what you actually want to do. And I would say, you know, anyone who feels this inkling, anyone who feels this thing like, you know, I've always wanted to do this, you know, it's time. You might do it. No, there's going to be hard times right now. There's going to be hard times moving forward. And, you know, it's beautiful to be able to fill that time with something that you've always wanted to do, and something that you enjoy. And I'm still just trying to think of anything else. Like, you see how this turned into something 40 minutes long, crazy. But like, just what I'm just asking myself, what has been helping me right now? And maybe that might help you going through this experience. For myself, it's been exercise, and I haven't always done it. The first 2 weeks, man, oof. Sometimes I was just lying in bed a couple times. I'm like, oh, everything that I've worked on, it's gone. And it's like, it was eating bread, anything that had a carb, it was like, put it in my mouth. So like, when I switched 2 weeks ago, was just like, okay, Tyler, it doesn't matter that you're in this, that you're working from home. There's no excuses here. Wake up your normal time and go for your run. Do some push-ups, whatever you can do. And that change, that helped me immensely. Standardizing the routine, making sure that I could, you know, continue to wake up, you know, at a time that was reasonable, even though I was just walking out to the living room to work instead of, you know, going to the DMZ, or anyone that's going to an office. Just, you know, keep up this routine, keep structure. Humans need structure. We need to be, you know, we need some sort of routine and consistency in our life. I think the other part that adds onto that is eating. I'm still working back my gut that I gained during, you know, the first couple of weeks of this, and even before. I realized, even leading up, the move to Toronto, the DMZ, the entry, the stress that I was putting myself with, like 8 people working, like burning through all this money, was like, wow, that's crazy. And you know, I was building up some stress for a while, and then it all sort of just came out. And then the first 2 weeks of the lockdown, the quarantine, I was like just eating everything. And now I'm just, you know, just chicken. I'm trying to go vegetarian, but I'm eating chicken. And like just veggies, like that's it. Just, and I've already can feel like, you know, sort of water weight coming off, but just my belly slimming down, and then obviously the exercise on top of that. I think like a mix of cardio, and then if you have anything, body weight or any weights that you have, just to try to get that in. And I know my body I feel so much better with that now. And whereas like limiting, obviously, the intake of information that you actually have, I think that is an important thing. It's really easy to get caught up in that. I will, as soon as I say, like, I'm done this, I'm like, 40 minutes, Tyler, what has happened in the world? Um, Shout out to my boy. I posted a picture today, Bernie. Bernie Sanders is no longer running for president, and I just wanted to say address that. That guy has changed the world in a better light. I'm really sad. I know if Bernie Sanders had been president right now, and how different the world would be, and how differently it would have dealt with this pandemic. It makes me emotional just thinking of it. And I don't know if I'm a Bernie bro. I don't know that. I just a track record of success, and just caring about what he's doing and holding true to himself. So I just wanted to say that, but like that's the news that's on my mind. But like that can really eat you up. If you're going down these negative thought patterns, call someone, talk to someone you know. I know it is really hard for anyone who's completely isolated right now. Sunlight, just like get outside and do it. You shouldn't say that, but like go into a private area and just go for a quick little walk. Just stay away from people, quarantine, but walk a little bit, do a little jog. Journal. That's been really helpful for me. Even recording this video, I feel like I just don't know why I felt compelled to do this right now, but I did, and it's been helpful. And hopefully, if anyone actually watches this, no one's gonna watch this whole shit, but it's there, anyways. And a couple things I just look at. I'm looking around my room right now. Water, drink it, hydrated. I've been an incense monster since this whole thing has started. Before, but like I just incense all the time. Just give it to me. I think that's been really beautiful and just helped me brought to a little bit more of a meditative state. Listening to music. I've been making music again, which is so much fun. Been playing around with Fruity Loops, and again, it's just exploring that creative part. I've learned more in Fruity Loops. I've learned more that I didn't know how capable I was, or that how accessible it is to actually create music using Fruity Loops, even though I've wanted to do it for years, and I just never lifted my head up to actually try. And this has been a really beautiful experience. I'm making beats, and I'm even considering like sharing it out at some point. We'll see how that goes. I got it's Tyler here, so what am I going to talk about? A little bit plant medicine, marijuana, little chocolate edible, whatever you got, microdosing, psilocybin, LSD, whatever I don't know if I'm saying I'm doing this, but who knows. And those things are really helpful as well too. And I think this is a time where this is a pandemic crisis. There's health issues going on, but it's also this is the amount of trauma that this is causing people right now. This amount of stress, anxiety. I've been reading a lot of studies about the uptake in mental health applications, the increases in searches around depression, anxiety, and not even that, like suicidal ideation is really, really terrifying right now. And whether we are aware of it or not, most of us are being traumatized in some way by this collective experience that we're all having, as well as the personal experiences that are taking place with financial difficulties or any of these things that we're actually going through. So we really need to change the infrastructure for how we're dealing with this. Telehealth is increasing dramatically. They've dropped some standards in the United States so people can get served, so HIPAA compliance, and now there's different ways to do telemedicine. I think, the other piece that I've talked about a lot is just we need to investigate plant medicine, whether that is psilocybin, whether it's MDMA, ibogaine, LSD. LSD is not a plant, but a psychedelic, and it's very, very healing stuff, and it's been a huge part of my journey. I've talked about the negative parts of it, but it's also unarguably for myself been a positive piece as well too. And we're going to have a lot of work to do to address the trauma and the pain that people are going through right now. And it doesn't necessarily need to be psychedelics, but we need to figure out something here. And that's something that I'm personally thinking a lot about right now as we go through. And I'm also looking at like the technology basis of what I've got and what we're building has value in this domain as well too. So if I only have so much time and energy in this world, is there a better way to spend that and put what I'm even working on towards that? So that's something I'm exploring right now. I'm also like unabashedly coming out about some of that stuff as well too. I did the Thank You Plant Medicine campaign, and I thought that was to me like a really important thing to share. I started the 4 City Psychedelic Community, which after doing a couple events like that, which I basically stereotype. I'd gone to Burning Man. I listened to the science instead of just partying. I partied. I had a lot of fun, but I went and I watched these lecture series for 4 days. And just after listening to that, I was like, "There's no other option here. I feel so mobilized. I feel so energized, and the science now is coming so irrefutably that I just need to support this movement." And so I started the Forest City Psychedelic Community, held an event where I talked about, what's the current status of psychedelics? What does that actually look like? And 40 people showed up. Second time, 20 people showed up, and the third, it's 30, and then another 25 people, and different people this time, and so that's been a hugely fulfilling part of my life, and also shown me like how much this stuff is being used, how much it's needed, from whether that's first responders, whether that's just people who have had trauma in their life, health-wise, all these different things. And then even as what I've been exploring right now a lot is, what's happening with ketamine. I don't really have any experience with ketamine, but some of the healing effects of it, it's actually being used right now in Canada and North America for treatment-resistant depression, for people who have dealt with years of suffering, a lot of times multiple SSRIs and antidepressants, and come at their last straw. They're at suicidal or have suicidal ideation, and then ketamine has a rapid onset. It's robust, and it's replicable as well too. And they're going through 6 sessions, and it's completely changing their lives. And even something that I've been following is Mind Bloom, which is a organization in New York that's doing ketamine treatment and has used the changes because of COVID to actually administer ketamine therapy remotely as well too. So a lot of really fascinating things happening right now that I'm tracking, and I hope to continue to advocate for that. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to speak very quickly. I'm on the technology panel next week for a conference. It's a psychedelic conference, and it's bringing together some of the biggest leaders in the world, and I'm really I can't believe that I'm actually part of it. Some of the people, it's not like I'm actually on stage with them, but like in a virtual lineup with like literally some of my heroes. It's crazy. And I won't stop on this side. I don't really have the desire to make a crazy ton of money right now. I have that side of me because I can see what is capable of money, at least in the current paradigm of the world that we're in. But I want to see access to this stuff. I want to see better research, and I want to see more personalized treatment, and I want to see options for people who are having a difficult time or dealing with trauma or anything like that. So that's about it, guys. I appreciate if any of you listen to this. This is 50 minutes, so I know it's a pretty long thing, but I really do appreciate you joining, and hopefully, again, like everything's, all things considering, everything's going, okay. Good would be nice. We're going to see a lot more stuff over these next few weeks, over these next few months. And, a lot of people talking about, are we ever going to go back to normal? And, what was normal to actually begin with? What do we consider normal? I think that's something that I'm thinking about a lot, and, is worthwhile sort of pondering. And why do we even have this definition? Because the world is changing every day, every second. And that's going to continue at light speed. That's we can barely comprehend. So, I think that's it. I just want to say hi. I want to catch up, share a bit of an update, and I hope everything is going on. Hope everything, all things considering, that you guys can continue to find joy. That you can, seeing, with all the pain that's going on, also some of the connections, the people that you care about, some of the good. And I know I'm doing my best to do that as well too. So if anything resonated with you here, anyone who wants to send me a message, I'm always happy to chat. I might not respond right away, doing a lot of stuff, but like I do care, I do read, and I just want to see everyone make it through this time. So thank you very much. Have a good night, and I look forward to reconnecting soon, hopefully. Thank you.